So you also mentioned in the book about the axioms of leadership. There are a few things that are very interesting for me. The first question that I have is about executive leadership is a long-term thing. For example, in the company, right, when you hire executives, sometimes it's for solving a short-term thing, or sometimes to gain something for
Hmm.
short-term benefits. And sometimes even the compensation or the remuneration is tied to a short-term gain. So
Hmm.
maybe you can tell us more. Why do you think tech executives should think in long term?
Yeah, well, it's like the same annoying answer you get from coders when you ask them, how long should it take me to write an app? And you're going to hear, it depends. Because there are a bunch of things, and we always need to think about balancing the different trade-offs that we have. I believe that executives and pretty much everyone in leadership, but especially if you're at the executive level, you have to have a very strong discipline to always consider the long term. Does that mean that you're not going to look at the short term? Of course not. There will always be fires to put out. And as you just said, sometimes there are things that have to be handled. For example, quarter goals and stuff like that that you have to focus on. But if you are myopic, if you always look one step ahead, you are doing the team a disservice because the team deserves to have someone that's looking ahead and trying to think how to best utilize them. Otherwise, you're working like a greedy algorithm that's not looking far ahead enough. And therefore, you might be achieving some local maximum, but not the real maximum this team should be striving for.
So another thing that tech leaders should do is actually to build what you call tech capital. Maybe in the first place, what do you mean by tech capital? I have heard about technical debt, but tech capital is something that is new for me.
Yeah, so we've all heard about tech debt, and that's my main issue with it. That I'm hearing people talk about it all the time and are spending so much time doing that. And I always give the example, if you had a friend that's obsessed about their debt, about maximizing their credit card, about not drinking their cappuccino because they're trying to save those $2 a day and stuff like that, I would say that there's a limit to how much you can gain by lowering your debt. But sometimes you can do things that would end up creating more value to the company as a whole. Things that are not features. Tech capital isn't just another feature, because a feature is like the second you purchase a new car and you start driving it, it starts lowering in value and you have to maintain it constantly. The same applies for most features. Tech capital is about creating something that enables things that weren't possible before. I can give a bunch of examples. For example, something I've seen recently is when at a startup I'm helping, an engineer just happened to be talking to some of the salespeople and saw that the way they were building the company's sales pipeline, where the money is going to be brought in, he saw that they were doing it in an ineffective way, kind of guessing. And because this is a company that sells based on geographic location, he did some thinking, said, let me try something. And he pulled data from the municipality data sources, open data sources you can find online. And he created this map tool that all of a sudden did some data science magic. And I'm talking about 2 days pretty much for building this. He created this tool that all of a sudden clustered some information, helped them see how things are changing in the city they were currently targeting. The whole sales organization started being driven by this tool. So that's tech capital, because he created something that then enabled something no one else before thought was possible. And those are the kind of stuff that eventually end up paying long term.
So you mentioned that this is different than features, right? Because in tech, in engineering, mostly business and technology, they always talk about, okay, how many features can we deliver? How fast can it be? But when we talk about this new capital, how do you actually influence business that actually this is important?
I think that first of all, you do have to ensure that when you have these initiatives, when you're working on tech capital, it has to actually be capital. Some of the time, the team should be doing stuff that's very technical, not tech debt necessarily. Some of it would be tech debt because we can't really get rid of it. Sometimes they're going to learn about the new Node.js package or stuff like that. But they also need to be creating stuff that matters for the business. Some more examples of tech capital. They can create tools that enable people in marketing to execute on tests faster without having to schedule stuff with engineering. I always see marketing wanting to edit emails or send another email and do another test, and they see that they have to schedule it through product, so it ends up on the engineering roadmap, and the cycle times become months. Once someone in engineering creates the CMS-like tool that allows them to do stuff on their own, not everything, 80% of the work, that's like magic for them. Marketing all of a sudden can actually do stuff rapidly. So if you do tech capital that's actually genuinely helping the business, enabling other people in your organization, and that's actually another one of those leadership axioms. I call it quotas without borders. You want to create engineers that help not just the direct customer of the company, but everyone in the company. So you might be helping customer support. You might be creating tools for sales or marketing and everyone else. And sometimes even tools for engineering, because making engineers be able to develop faster is also valuable.
So I like the term when you mentioned coders without borders. From your examples, few things that we can listen already. Engineering helping the marketing or the sales team to build some tools that can help them to do more self-service tasks, or maybe some kind of automation that can help their lives better. But in the first place, normally when we talk about engineering and business, and especially coders, right, they don't talk to humans. Like they don't like talking to humans. How do you create this environment where the coders without borders actually excel?
Well, we have to avoid the creation of silos. We have to avoid people pigeonholing themselves and, as leaders, pigeonholing the organization. A part of that is what I call product mastery. There's a difference between having engineers be just really good engineers technically, just a principal engineer who is great at their craft. And then there are product engineers who are people who understand the actual product that the company is working on, what the customers need, how the business model works, what attracts customers, what the competition is doing, and what you can do differently in order to become better, to gain a competitive edge. And having engineers that actually understand that and have that wider, broader context of the company, they are worth their weight in gold when they achieve that. And the question is, how do you help your engineers have that kind of product mastery? If you're just a small, tiny startup, it usually happens pretty much naturally because everything is so small that people are aware of what's going on. But as you become larger, and especially at enterprises, it gets a lot harder and you have to do active work. Just the other day, I was talking to a CDO who told me that his engineers started replacing their Netflix time with watching Gong.io. If you know what it is, it's a tool that salespeople use for tracking their sales calls and how they're operating. And it actually records the sales calls. And the engineers started listening to those, like you're watching Netflix. They did that not because anyone asked them to, but because they were interested. And they gained such a broad insight of what customers are talking about, what makes the product sell, and what kind of disadvantages customers are asking about. That made them so much better at poking holes in the product roadmap. They see something and product asks them for something. And you can be a Jira resolving machine. Product tells you, we need you to do X, and you just go and do X. Or you can have the awareness so that when product comes up with an idea or with a feature or a new product, you can poke holes and say, I think that the customers really care about this, right? So maybe we can put away those extra 20% of the feature that's going to cost us 50% of the work and see if that by itself is worth it. You can have those conversations as a partner to product, which is a gold mine for the company.